Hello. Hi. How are you? 4 minutes to 6 o'clock. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 1. I know. I know. Definitely a face for radio, right? Yeah. No, this is my radio voice.
Like they're all different. They are all different.
One more time. One more tap.
One more test.
Yeah.
Okay. And the rocket's red glare. The bombs bursting in air. Come on, you know the words. Was still there. Say that star-spangled banner, yeah, wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Play ball!
Kyle's nervous for his TV debut.
I've never seen him so dressed up.
I've seen them text.
Anytime you're ready, Keith. All right. Good evening, everybody. Fantastic crowd here tonight. Welcome to Marshalltown Community College. We are here for the KFJB Town Hall tonight. I'm Todd Steinkamp. I'm the general manager and owner of Trending Media for KFJB and Kicks 101.1. I want to welcome everybody here to the Town Hall event. We're going to have the Marshall County Supervisor candidates with us tonight, as well as the Marshall County Attorney candidates here with us tonight as well. This is going to be broadcasted on KFJB-TV. So on our website at 1230kfjb.com, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. You'll be able to see the broadcast at a later time if you so choose. The candidates who are up here tonight and in the room tonight were originally contacted on October 20th. Now, the following candidates responded that they would be able to make the town hall meeting. That includes Marshall County Supervisor candidates Jared Heil, Carol Hibbs, Mark Giannetto, and we're happy that she was able to get here, Linda Von Holten as well. She ditched out of work early for us, so thank you, Linda, for making that sacrifice. And also Marshall County Attorneys candidates Jordan Gaffney and Sarah Tepper are also here tonight. Now, we do have some rules we are asking everybody to follow. The first portion of the event is going to last approximately 45 minutes. It will be for the county supervisor candidates up at the dais right now. The second portion of the event will be also approximately 45 minutes, and that will be for the county attorney candidates. Each candidate is going to be allowed 2 minutes for an opening statement. The order of statements had been determined by drawing names from it wasn't a hat, it was a Halloween bucket, which that happened prior to our event right around 5:30 or so. After opening statements, your moderators, Brandon Lewis and Kyle Martin from KFJB and Kicks 101.1, will be asking the candidates a few opening questions. Following those questions, you, the public in attendance, are encouraged to come to the microphone in the back, this very microphone will be in the back there, and ask any question of the candidates that you'd like. With that said, we do want to ask the following. Please do not ask questions of the candidates without approaching and speaking directly into the microphone. That way everyone here can hear you and everyone on KFJB-TV can hear you as well. We are allowing individuals to ask one question and a follow-up question if warranted for the sake of time, so we can keep things moving. Anyone that asks the question, just keep in mind, will be broadcast, will be
So what are the big items with Extension Council? What are they working on? Actually, there's programming. We're trying to figure out what kind of is coming up. Usually at this point in time, they start STEM, even though that's a summer program.
Yeah,
we
we
started
lost it
pretty
too,
heavily
so.
right now. We just got a new kind of coordinator. I don't know if you knew that.
Is that Emily?
Yeah, it is. And
Elizabeth.
do you know her? Do you know her? That was a struggle the first few days trying to remember to call her Elizabeth, not Emily. And so I had to try to tell myself she's Emily.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she's gonna be great. Yeah. I mean, we had 3 that we interviewed.
I think maybe we only had 5 or 6 candidates. We probably had about 5 or 6 candidates, but we interviewed 3 of them, and they actually all. I mean, it was a tough choice. It was a tough choice, but she
So far, so good, huh?
fantastic. I mean, they all just kind of
We haven't fallen
did a
off
great
stage
job.
yet.
It was really
Yeah.
But yeah, she's gonna do it. I just think she's gonna do a great job.
Yeah. And Chelsea, do you know Chelsea? She's Chelsea Llewellyn. She used to be the office assistant. Now she's a program coordinator. She does their ag things, and she's expecting. And then Elizabeth, see what I call her. I'm like, Elizabeth is getting married in April, so in the spring, we need to plan as much as we can in the winter time because it's going to get.
Okay. Well, for those just tuning in, on KFJB-TV, we had some sort of power bump here at the Marshalltown Community College, so we're hoping everything is working properly now on the TV side. Either way, everyone in attendance we're glad that you're here to still ask questions and take part. in the KFJB Town Hall. So I'm going to start over real quick with just the rules, just so way everyone is clear about how things are going to work. In fact, my phone just started talking. So the first portion of the event for the Marshall County Supervisors is going to last up to 45 minutes, and then the county attorney candidates will also have 45 minutes as well, too. Each candidate allowed 2 minutes for an opening statement, and the order of statements have been chosen prior to the KFJB Town Hall meeting. After opening statements, your moderators from KFJB and Kicks 101.1, Kyle Martin and Brandon Lewis, will ask the candidates a few opening questions. Following those questions, this is, I think, where we dumped out, you, the public in attendance, are encouraged to come to the microphone in the back of the room and ask any questions of the candidates you would like. With that said, please do not ask questions of the candidates without approaching and speaking into the provided microphone. That way everyone here can hear and everyone on KFJB-TV can hear as well, too. Individuals are allowed one question with one follow-up question if warranted for the sake of time. Anyone that does ask a question will be broadcast, as long as we have power, on KFJB-TV. I will add this. As we know, political discussions can sometimes get a little heated, but we are Iowans, and we are better than that. So we ask you to please maintain decorum and decency tonight. Use that golden rule, please. Treat others the way that you would like to be treated. If someone does become disruptive and continues to be disrupted, they will be warned and then asked to leave, but I know we won't have to worry about that. Following the end of questions from the public or towards the end of the allotted time, whichever comes first, the candidates will be given an opportunity for 2-minute closing statements, and those statements are also figured out earlier by drawing from the Halloween bucket. All right? So, as the positions of county sheriff and treasurer are running unopposed, there will be no time allotted to them tonight. With that, we will begin the Marshall County Supervisor candidates portion of our KFJB Town Hall with your moderators, Kyle Martin and Brandon Lewis, along with KFJB News reporter Zach Tomish. Take it away, guys.
Good evening. We want to welcome you. I'm Kyle Martin from KFJB Radio, AM and FM.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm Brandon Lewis, and we look forward to tonight's debate. And, of course, Kyle will lead things off with our first question.
Well, we've got to give the candidates an opportunity here to have an opening statement, first of all. And the opening statement was drawn earlier, and Jarrett Heil, I do believe, is going to have an opening statement here for us. Jarrett.
Great. Thank you very much, Kyle. Brandon, Zach, Todd, thank you so much. Congratulations on your first political event here televised with KFJB Television. Thanks for everyone being here and all of you watching at home. Well, I'm Jarrett Heil. I'm currently the Marshall County Treasurer and running for the Board of Supervisors. Been Treasurer for 12 years. And I have a wife, Donna. She's a mental health counselor, and she watches our kids. As a matter of fact, she's chasing them around at basketball and dance tonight. So I have 4 kids, ages 11, 9, 9, and 7. And it's a busy house, but we have a lot of fun. So service is an important thing that we have in our family, and it started with me at a young age, learning from my father, who was a county auditor, and I learned knocking on doors and watching him serve as auditor for 8 years for Marshall County. And I grew up working on the farm, learning that good work ethic of growing up on the farm with 100 head of sow, farrow to finish operation. And it was grueling work for a high schooler when I was about 80 pounds, little guy, but I figured out how to wrestle those pigs and get the job done. Went on to college, got a business management degree from Central College, ran cross country and track there, and I also have a Spanish minor. Then I went on and worked in Washington, D.C. for Senator Grassley, and I also worked for Congressman Tom Latham, 2 wonderful men that were mentors of mine that taught me about service, serving the public, and what that means. And we did that while I started my job in the Treasurer's Office 12 years ago. Service was the #1 key that we did, and we had great staff that did a wonderful job providing that service to give you, the people, what you expect as taxpayers. And we look forward to the challenges ahead with that service-minded mentality as I become your next supervisor. That's the goal here. So thank you very much.
Next up is Linda Von Holten.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. What a great crowd. I really am pleased and proud to be one of the candidates up here, sitting up here with this great group of people running for Marshall County Supervisor this year. I'm really, like I said, I'm really proud to be here. my my sole purpose with this is to actually make sure that all of the people of Marshall County are represented. I moved here from Illinois about 18 years ago, and 17 years ago today, I actually started working with Central Iowa RSVP, which is the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, and I've been proud to serve as their volunteer coordinator for a very long time here in Marshall County, as well as part-time in Story County. And I'm also the volunteer coordinator and the Christian educator for Hope United Methodist Church. Very proud to do both of those things. And as Jarrett said, service is really important to me. And I felt like our community has stayed together. We've stayed strong. We are Marshalltown strong here. But I also think it's important that we remember the rural communities and what's outlying outside of Marshalltown. And I think it's important that we continue to be Marshall County strong as well. The political environment outside of where we're at is so volatile right now, and I want to be a part of bringing everyone together and showing everyone what we can do as a community, as a county. Community actually means one thing: come in unity. That's actually what it stands for. So let's all do that together. Again, great group of people, and I thank you for allowing me to represent you on November 8th.
Thank you, Linda. Mark Giannetto.
Hi, I'm Mark Giannetto. Thanks for being here. I'm a lifelong Marshall County resident. I was raised by a Marshalltown firefighter. He was on the fire department for more than 30 years. He instilled in me importance of service to the public and also taught me right from wrong. I'm running on the independent ticket because I don't think that politics should take hold in a county supervisor position. I think it should be open to everybody, and I want to take everybody's ideas and bring them to the table in a fair and ethical manner. That's it.
Thank you, Mark. And our final opening comment from Carol Hibbs.
Thank you, everyone. Again, my thanks for being here. I appreciate everyone's time this evening. As Brandon said, I'm Carol Hibbs. I grew up in southeast Marshall County in the Gilman-Laurel area. Grew up on a farm in that area, number 6 of 7 kids, so from a large family. Went to Semco High School, which is now part of East Marshall School District. Graduated there, went to Iowa State University, got a degree in journalism and communications with emphasis in technical writing. Came back to the Marshalltown area, started work for the Times Republican as a student intern, which was great experience. Married a local farm boy, Rusty Hibbs. His family farms in the Albion area, so we have deep roots in Marshall County and around the county. 2 children, Tanner and Taylor, both married, so my daughter and daughter-in-law are both here tonight. And appreciate their support. My son and my son-in-law are out in the fields still working, so a farm family. I have been serving as the CEO of the Y since 2007. I actually started there as a program director in 1996 and have been there almost 27 years, and I will retire from the Y at the end of this year. Whether I'm elected supervisor or not, I'll still be retiring from the Y. Have been involved in a lot of county and county-wide initiatives, community organizations that really help bring people together and work on issues, and really look forward to serving you as a supervisor.
Thank you, Carol. Now we're going to ask questions that Brandon and I actually came up with. And what we're going to do is everybody up here is going to get a shot to answer this question. So I'm going to start it off, and it is going to Jarrett, and then it'll go to Carol, and then it'll go to Linda, and then it'll go to Mark. This is just the order that we have here. So Jarrett, what qualifications make you the best fit for county supervisor?
I think I got 12 years experience in the Marshall County Treasurer's Office, so I have the experience of the knowledge of what goes on in intergovernment functions. I've worked with relationships with Senator Grassley, Congressman Latham, and worked on legislative liaison for the Treasurers Association with state government. And so I have a lot of the key relationships you need to have to make things happen. You talk to state economic development offices, they say, what are the key things to make things happen in your community? You have to have partnerships, and that ability to work with all partners when you're talking within the county, city, state, federal government. If you have everybody on board with the goals that you have for growth, the goals you have to improve your communities for our kids' future, for our farmers, then you can make those things happen. If you're splintered, good luck getting those funds. It can be a much more difficult task. So I have that ability to work together. Servant mentality is what I've always had in all that I do. That's why I'm running for this office is to serve. I look forward to those challenges in serving, and I think I do a great job. So,
Carol?
So I have been involved in a lot of different community initiatives, countywide actually, for a number of years. The thing I think I do well is listen and listen to all kinds of viewpoints respectfully, invite people to share their viewpoints, and I have I think the unique ability to bring people together around issues where they might not always agree, but I think we can discuss and come to solutions and do it respectfully. I have a lot of experience in in community organizing, community organizations, and I think what I do for the county also will unite Marshall County and the communities in the county with some of the initiatives in Marshalltown. I do think it would be important to have our county communities represented and a voice heard. I'd like to bring together a group of people that would gather periodically to discuss what are the issues our rural communities are facing, what are the issues our ag friends are facing, and how do we work together as one county to take advantage of some of the opportunities we may have missed in the past. And so I think it will be important to do that going forward because we know that times are probably going to be a little tough going forward here, and I think we as a county can come together and solve our issues if we work together.
Thank you. And Linda, I'll ask you the same question in case you guys don't remember what it was. What qualifications make you the best fit for Marshall County Supervisor?
Well, again, there's a really great group of people up here, but I too have worked a lot in the community here in Marshalltown as well as Ames with my job as volunteer coordinator. We have 22 different agencies here in town that I work with, that I partner with to provide volunteers and just make this community a great place to be. When the tornado happened here in Marshalltown in 2018, we all remember it. It was devastating. And my agency actually worked to bring volunteers from outside of this county as well as from the rural communities to actually come together and tarp homes and bring people in to fix what they could on those homes, putting new windows in, working with Habitat for Humanity. So I'm actually used to working with other partners as well. I'm currently a member of the Marshall County Agricultural Extension Council, which many people might know as ISU Extension. And I'm on their council and have been for almost 4 years. I was elected 4 years ago, and I'm currently the treasurer. So I too have learned what it's like to, work with those taxpayer dollars and do what you can to be responsible for what people have entrusted you with. We would be stewards as supervisors. We would be stewards of that money, and I feel that that's a very important thing to do. So I would be honored to be your supervisor, and I think I'm very qualified for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. And finally, Mark.
Okay, I've been in the public sector for most of my adult life. I've been around it. I know how it works. I know the same concerns that you have. I have the same complaints. I work it every day. I work with both sides. I've negotiated contracts. I've brought everybody together, and we've got stuff done. I watched them bring people together to clean up after the tornado, and we were there minutes after the derecho, and I know what it takes to get stuff done efficiently. I have the same concerns you have. I'm just like you guys. I'm not polished. I think we need a change, and I think I can be that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We'll move on to our next question. We'll start with Carol. Carol, in your opinion, what's the one most critical issue facing Marshall County right now, and how would you come to a solution with that?
Well, I think, first of all, starting off the year, we'll be setting a new budget. And so I think everyone understands that the budget may be a little tight going forward. It's been a challenging past couple of years. And so, working with department heads to establish spending priorities, I think will be key. We have limited resources available. We have a lot of infrastructure to take care of. Prioritizing those infrastructure projects will be important. And then, another key issue for me is staff. Every business that I know of is challenged with finding and keeping qualified staff right now in this environment. It's the most difficult, challenging hiring environment I think we've seen in decades. And so working with our department heads to make sure we can keep and retain qualified staff is a really high priority.
Linda, the most critical issue facing the county in your eyes?
I hate to say this, but I think there's many, many issues. I think economically we need to make sure, as Carol said, that we have staff for things, but we also need to make sure that people have a place to be here that they are proud to call their own. The school systems need to be up to par. We need to make sure that people want to live here, want to work here, and want to actually make this home. And I also feel very strongly, I work with a population that's 55 years of age and older, and I really feel like access to care for seniors right now is just so much lower than we think. I don't think people think about that. While it's super important to take care of our youth of today, if we don't take care of people that are older as they get older, if they have to go out of town and don't have transportation to get there, what are we saying about what it is to age in this community? It is so important to take care of these people.
Mark, in your eyes, the most critical issue facing Marshall County?
I think probably finances are going to be tight for quite a while, and I think we've got a storm coming that's going to get worse. Another problem is communication between elected officials and citizens. I don't think that they always, we create a problem because we don't let the citizens know what's actually going on. We hear different dates or when the courthouse is going to open up, and then it spreads into something bigger, and then we're supposed to be in there in September, and we're supposed to be in there in October, and then we're supposed to be in there before the holiday stroll, and now we find out we're not going to be in there until January. The problem with the courthouse and all of that stuff is because there was no communication. Nobody knows what's going on, and then it becomes a big deal. And if we just communicate, tell them, people will understand what the problems are. They understand money's going to be tight. You just have to be able to allocate it and make sure they understand what's going on with it. That's one of the big problems.
And finally, Jarrett.
Well, I'd say the most critical thing is it's all kind of tied together with finances was brought up, taking care of our people as they age, but growth is that number one thing that's a part of it. I think we look at the history of the 70s of Marshalltown. Boy, it was booming and it was awesome. And we were so proud of what was going on here. And the global economy's changed. And once that changed, this county changed. And so trying to find that new niche. What's that new niche for our communities? What's that new niche to get this place booming again? And I think engineering is something we've seen has been a wonderful thing for our communities, but also in the ag sector as well. What type of innovative things we can have that can allow our young farmers to keep farming. Partnerships are the key to it, getting that growth. And what happens when you get that growth, and if it's appropriate growth, not too fast growth like Waukee where you lose your identity, but you have appropriate growth, you can start paying for the projects you want to pay for. You can pay for your staff adequately that you want to pay for. And the pride of the community comes back that some maybe have felt that they've lost. And for those that still have that pride it continues to be emboldened if we work together, focus on that growth, being responsible with it, and working together.
Okay, this one is going to be directed at Linda first, and then Mark. But and you kind of already touched on some of the budget issues. But how would you manage rising personal costs for taxpayers while maintaining a budget that provides essential services to the residents of the county? So, Linda.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a heavy one.
It is a heavy one.
You know, I think first and foremost, it would be important to talk to the people in this county, everywhere, rural people, because what hits somebody rurally is not necessarily what's going to hit them in Marshalltown. I think we need to hear what people have to say to find out where their issues are, what their problems are, because I don't think, and Carol alluded to this, I don't think that we listen to the people as much as we should. Communication, as Jared said, we need, or I'm sorry, as both of those gentlemen said, we really need to find out what the people of Marshall County, what the residents of this community are looking for, what they're having issues with, because until we hear from them, we'll never know where their problems are.
Okay, Mark, same thing. How would you manage rising personal costs for taxpayers while maintaining a budget that provides essential services for the residents of the county?
That's a tough one. You gotta talk to the citizens and find out what their main concern is, and you're going to have to adjust. I mean, everything has to be adjusted. And you don't know what their problem is unless you talk to them. That's why communication is very important. And they'll tell you what you need. I mean, you guys will tell us. I mean, that's what you're here for. So if you talk to them, they'll tell you where their problem is, and then you can explain where the county is, and then you can come together and come up with an idea that works for everybody. But it's not going to be easy. We're headed into some tough times, and it's going to be hard for everybody.
Okay, Jarrett.
Well, it's certainly a big challenge, and I know what we're going into. We're seeing that the assessments are going to go up 18, 22%, and what you need the people that are elected to these positions to hold the line. Because what happens is politicians say, those assessments go up, boy, we can raid the taxpayers on that and keep the rate the same. You guys get kicked in the teeth, and we can say, well, we never raised the rates, so guess what? We did a great job. Or we can point the fingers at other entities. The bottom line is what we need to do is we need to look at that growth that's going in those assessments that's going up. That's a good thing that your values of your properties are going up. That's a very good thing. But we need to look for the growth that we're going to spend more money on needs to be the growth that's on top of that. That's the new stuff. We don't want to go back to the wealth of the same old taxpayers, hit you guys time and time again. When you get that new growth, that's where you can start building your infrastructure funds and start making things happen. But if you don't have that growth and you're just relying on those assessments that are going up, and you guys aren't going to be very happy with us. So that's one thing I'll be very cognizant of your pocketbook when I'm your supervisor.
And finally, Carol.
You want to repeat that?
Yeah, I'll repeat it. It's a long one, I know.
I know.
How would you manage rising personal costs for taxpayers while maintaining a budget that provides essential services to the residents?
So no one wants to pay more in taxes, and I think we can all agree that we want to hold the line as much as possible in taxes. I do, have a strong opinion about we cannot cut our way to prosperity in Marshall County. We do have to grow. We have to have a broader tax base, whether that comes from more residents in Marshall County, reducing the commuter rate of people who are working here in Marshall County but living elsewhere. If we can get more people to live here, that helps solve a lot of issues. We also want to grow our industrial and business base, and part of what needs to happen there would be to partner with our partners in the city and community and county organizations to make sure we have the utility infrastructure to recruit businesses and industry to our county. And so whether that's inside Marshalltown, outside Marshalltown, some of our surrounding communities, that's a key to helping keep our taxes down.
Thanks, Carol.
We'll move on to our final question, and then we'll open it up to the public here this evening. Our final question, and we'll start up with Mark Gianetto here this evening. What do you think, Mark, can be done to improve Marshall County's economic and employment situation? We hear much about businesses and then unemployment rates around the country, but how do you feel here in Marshall County you can help the economic and employment situation?
Well, we're going to have to bring in business. We're going to have to attract business, whatever it is. And we can do that. We can show them that we have the workforce, the talent. We have an education system that we can push, and we have an efficient medical system. So we can attract business to Marshall County. We have what it takes. I mean, all you have, for an advertising budget, the video's already been made. We just haven't used it. During the tornado, during the derecho, the news places came to town and filmed us. And it's not like what you see, like a hurricane in Florida or a tornado in Mississippi. What do they show you? They show you 5 days later where people are still standing in front of a pile of crap that's, the house got blown away, and they always zero in on them and they go, we need help. And when we had the tornado here and we had the derecho here, 20 minutes later we were out cleaning. People were cleaning. We were removing trees, and we can show that to companies. This is what you get if you come here. You have a workforce that will do that. And then with that, we can grow and build our tax base and go from there. It's right there. We have what we need. We just need to grow.
Jarrett, what do you think can be done to improve Marshall County's economic and employment situation?
A lot of what I've answered already ties right into this, but it does come to partnerships. And look, we had a tornado come through here, derecho. We have an aggressive governor who wants growth. And I do know for a fact that she would enjoy having a feather in her cap of having Marshtown turn around and be bigger and greater than it ever was. And that bleeds into the rural areas as well. We need to tap into other areas. Well, how can we supplement, support, and have offshoots off of agriculture? Look at Busby Meadery. How great would it be to have a winery here? Look at pumpkin patches. We all go out of the county and take our kids to another pumpkin patch because that's pretty cool for your families to go do. But we can have those things in Marshall County. The ability to have that is here. It's just working together, finding the entrepreneurs that want to do it, and give them the tools to make it happen. At the same time, we need to have that infrastructure that's key for current farming of the day. We need our roads to be up to today's standards so that our farmers can get the crops to market. And that will open more doors for agriculture jobs. We need to be open to energy. Energy is something that we're constantly going to need in this county and across the country. So we need to look at all sources of energy, ethanol, biodiesel, wind, solar. There is a lot of federal funds out there that can be tapped into at the local level if we work in those partnerships to develop that here. We do that, that's going to grow more jobs. So there's a lot of opportunities if you bring the partnerships together and you know what? Have fun with it. This isn't just a drag that we're here to figure out taxes and budget. This is very exciting what we have in the current state of Marshalltown, Marshall County, because of the disaster we had and the growth that can come out of it and the joy that can come to our county is abundant. So I'm just excited to hopefully be a part of that.
Turn to Carol Hibbs now. Carol, what do you think can be done to improve Marshall County's economic and employment situation?
Well, I'll just echo some of the comments that have been said and what I said previously. It's important to grow the tax base here, whether it's the residential tax base or the industrial and business tax base. And there are partnerships, as we've talked about, opportunities to partner on workforce issues with the college, partner with the city of Marshalltown and some of our rural communities on creating the utility infrastructure. There's been a lot of discussion in the local media lately regarding the water capacity in Marshalltown, and that has limited our business opportunity. There are federal funding opportunities for transportation, federal funding opportunities for business growth and development. We have very positive, aggressive leadership at the Chamber of Commerce in Marshalltown that is really looking at how do we involve our area communities, State Center, LeGrand, Gilman, Laurel, Garwin, Green Mountain, all the communities that are in our trade area. So I think we have a lot of good key things in place, and with the right leadership, I think we can bring it all together.
And finally, Linda, what do you think can be done to improve Marshall County's economic and employment situation?
Again, as Carol said, I would agree with a lot of everything that's been said here. I think it's not only important to bring those businesses in, but to make sure that when we do that, we have plenty of housing for people, to have a place to call their home, as well as making sure that people's wages are comparable to somewhere else, that they can make the choice. Again, with the school systems, with the economics, with the businesses that we have here, we need to make sure the whole picture is complete. Not just one thing or the other. We need to make sure all of those T's are crossed and those I's are dotted, and I was going to say that backwards. But we just need to make sure everything is covered, because if people don't have a place to live, then they're not going to want to stay here, or they're going to work here, but they're going to take their business somewhere else. It's important we bring them here. It's important that we bring the rural community people into town. This is where they're going to do their business. I live out in the country. I live on a farm, and if I want a gallon of milk, I come to Marshalltown. So we need to make sure those roads are available in the wintertime for people to drive down the road. If we have 5 feet of snow, that's not going to happen. But it's important to make sure that everyone is protected in this county, and that we do everything we have to do to keep people here.
Thank you, Linda. We'll turn it over for public comment. Again, we do have a microphone set up in the back of the room, so you can make your way there if you would like to open up a question. We'll start first with news reporter for KFJB and KFJB-TV, Zach Tomish. Zach?
Yeah, how you guys doing? How do you plan to budget and meet the different department needs in this role as county supervisor?
Anyone like to start? All right, Carol?
Okay, so I think there's been a lot of discussion about open communication. Many of our department heads have been in their positions for a while, or been in their departments for a while, have a good understanding of what their needs are, and really work hard to stretch every dollar. This, as I said before, this is a really challenging hiring environment. And so if we start losing our people, they're one of our strongest assets that we have to build and grow the county. My first thought is that we establish respectful, open communication with each department, and we, listen to each other respectfully, identify what we have to work with, and identify how we prioritize the amount we have to work with.
Linda, would you like to respond?
I would. I'm going to agree with a lot of what Carol said, because I think that all of our county employees, first of all, need to work as a team. I think that they all know that. If we're all here for Marshall County and for everyone in Marshall County, then we have to do everything we can to work together. This is not about doing things separately. It's about coming together and making sure that we do everything we can to keep people here, to represent the people that do work for this county. Make sure that their compensation and their benefits and their school system keep them here and not going somewhere else that maybe gives them a better offer.
Again, the question was planning to budget to meet the different departments' needs. Jarrett?
Well, it first starts with communication and communicating a clear vision of what we're trying to do at Marshall County. And the first part of that vision is its service. We, as elected officials and as employees of Marshall County, ultimately serve you, the taxpayer, the people who live here. And if we are not stewards to you, the people, the taxpayer, then we're off on the wrong step. So we get that laid down first, and then we talk about what are the goals of the best way we possibly can serve people. How can we make the jobs we do at the county a great experience for all people that we serve? And utilizing resources like the Iowa State Association of Counties and all the affiliates that a lot of other counties have done things, challenges that we're coming up to take on, and finding out what other counties did, what partnerships did they do, what 28 agreements did they do to save money, to be more efficient, and ultimately make Marshall County, their county, our county, a better place. So, but it's not just communication once a year or twice a year. Hey, department head, how'd you do? What do you think you're doing next year? And then not talk to them again. You have to continually communicate. And a lot of times when an idea comes from a department head, it's something that just is not in the budget for that year. But how to put that long-term budgeting planning in place, a capital improvement plan, an actual one that's obtainable, one that you put into your budget that is feasible to hit every 4 to 6 years. Tie that into your secondary roads 5-year plan. And when you do that, when you actually put in the plan and force yourself to budget it while holding your line in operations and cutting where you can, all in line with the communication and goal setting that you have with your departments, it can be possible. It's no easy task by no means. It's not simple, but the communication and actually put the goals out there that are attainable, and then just go get it.
And Mark, budgeting and meeting those department needs.
Well, you have to sit down with all the department heads and their employees, because they actually know more about what's going on than the department heads often, and see what they're going to need. And you have to things are going to get tight, so you're going to have to make sure that every dollar is spent, wisely, and just make a plan and make sure that you stick with the plan and move forward and make sure that everybody gets the services they deserve and the services they're paid for within that budget.
If anybody, we're going to wrap it up here with closing comments here pretty soon. So if you have been if you've been sitting on your hands waiting to get to the microphone, now's the time. Okay, here comes a gentleman, 2 gentlemen. And sir, who would you like to direct your question at, or is it for everybody? And say your name, please.
My name is Mark Eaton, and I think I'm going to direct my question to Jared Heil. So in the newspaper recently, there's been a report of an investigation from DCI of the Treasurer's Office. I'd like to know, how is that investigation being handled? I'd also like to know why the DCI needs to be investigating the Treasurer's Department in Marshall County. Go for it.
Well, a lot of times you hear answers as, well, that's an ongoing investigation, so I can't tell you anything about that. But I'm happy to share about it because, first of all, as elected officials, we answer to you. And in the private sector, you can hide, and things like any type of complaint can come up, and it's completely avoided. As a public servant, hey, it's open door. And so that's the checks and balances that are in place for good government. And well, so there was a complaint of some sorts that came up that there were some improper collections in our office. I did, in fact, meet with a DCI agent as we talked a nice long discussion on the Code of Iowa and what the authorities are of the county treasurer. I found that there was nothing there, according to my meeting with them, and there's so much not there. It's completely behind me, and it's not a matter that's concerning me. And I'm very confident in the work that's gone on in the Marshall County Treasurer's Office. I'm confident in my staff that has done the work of collections, that they do it all appropriately according to the law. You can look it up in 445.2 in the Iowa Code. We collect taxes and we do it practicable. And the Marshall County Treasurer's Office has been a wonderful home for me for 12 years. And I'm incredibly proud of our service, and I'm proud of each and every one that's worked in that office in my time. And really, I am not concerned. There is nothing there.
So as a follow-up, if there was something there, or if there is nothing there, is there some, you probably can't speak to this, the TR hasn't written a follow-up story on it or anything. Did you talk to them?
Well, yeah, when I get cleared, I'm going to talk to the TR.
Okay, so it's still ongoing.
There's a process. There's a process that goes it went from the county attorney, went to the attorney general's office, and then it went to the DCI. DCI's got to wrap up what they do. It goes back to attorney general. It goes back to the county attorney. It's process. I mean, it could take a long, long time before they get that all figured out. But from what I was questioned, there's nothing there, folks. I can honestly tell you the truth. So that is what I can guarantee you, and I'm proud of all my staff on what they do in their collections, Mark.
Yes, sir. You want to step up and state your name, and do you have a question directed at anybody up here in particular?
Hi, I'm Esteban, and my question will be towards everyone. In summation, it's going to be about zoning laws, but we talk about trying to foster growth in the community and such. And if you look at Marshalltown, a lot of the zoning for businesses are like along a couple of streets, and the rest of it is residential area. Growing up, I came from a different community, not Marshalltown, and I was able to like walk down the street and go to a liquor store to grab something to drink, or go to like the hair salon that's right down the street. In Marshalltown, walking, like it's far away. It can be very far to go and walk somewhere. So everyone always says, why don't we see kids walking around? It's because everything's so spaced out. There's some communities where they allow for like a block or two, and within a residential area to be allotted for small businesses. This could be good for the community to foster small businesses in far out areas. It's not going to be a big name brand store that's going to be out in the boonies, but it's going to be a small mom and pop shop maybe, something that would help people, and people be able to walk to the store instead of just using gas. My question would be, would you guys be willing to entertain incorporating something like that, or doing more businesses zoning within residential areas?
Do you mind if I ask you, are you talking city or county?
Well, it would be Marshalltown, kind of city, but...
Okay. Yeah, because they're dealing more with county issues. I mean, Marshalltown is within the county. Does somebody want to take that?
I'll take a stab at it. I mean, I think the key thing is that we have to have our elected officials from the county. This isn't something that's going to be directly with us as supervisors, but it still is important to us because you are a taxpayer that pays taxes to Marshall County. And so we need to work with the city. We need to work with the Chamber of Commerce to open up doors for any type of growth that our citizens want, so that you have the ability to get the necessities that you need and what have you. So I think that's what we've talked a lot about tonight, is that communication and partnerships with others. As if you would come to me in the supervisor's office, if I become supervisor, that's going to be an issue that's important to me, that I go talk to someone else to try to help and make those opportunities happen for you.
Does anybody else want to respond? If not, we will move to our closing comments.
Thank you, by the way.
Thank you for your question. All right, we'll move to our closing comments. As we drew earlier, it's Mark Gianetto first.
Hi. People come to me saying they want to change. I believe I can make a positive change. We need to be we need to have more honest communication between all the departments and all entities, which leads to more cooperation, more accountability to get things done in a fair and ethical way. I think I can help that move forward.
Next up, Linda Von Holten.
Thank you. As I've said, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, I think your voice needs to be heard. Every single one of you, every single person in this county deserves to have their voice heard. My husband and I moved here, as I said, 18 years ago to make this our home, and we are proud to be residents of Marshall County. And I will do everything in my power, no empty promises here, but I would do everything in my power as supervisor for you to make sure that I help to do that. I think that we see how frightening our political environment is, but I don't think any of us feel that we couldn't work together. I think this is a great team of people, and I think that if you chose me, I would add to that. And I think that, again, great group of people, I think we could all work together as a team. I think that we need to do that to be the best that we can be. We want to be someplace that people want to call home. People want to raise their children. People want to work, and they want to live, and they want to shop. We want to do all of that here. I want to be the person that you elect on November 8th, and I hope you will choose me. But in closing, I'm going to give you a really great quote I heard today. And I think it's super appropriate here. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think that all of us as residents of Marshall County, we would prefer to go far than to just go it alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Carol Hibbs.
So I have lived as a county resident almost all of my life. I think Marshall County is a great place to live, to work, to raise a family, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had over my time here. Opportunities to work together with lots of different entities, to work on projects that really help the quality of life for people. And, you know, I appreciate the chance to be able to talk to everyone and hear all sides of an issue. And so if you elect me, that's really what you'll get. You'll get someone who will listen. You'll get someone who will share views respectfully. You'll get someone who has a network of friends and partnerships that I can draw on to bring people to the table to solve issues, and you'll get someone who likes to think big picture and figure out how we solve problems together. So I appreciate you guys taking the time tonight to listen and to respectfully consider these candidates. As Linda said, we've got a good group of people up here, and I would appreciate your vote.
And our final closing comment, Jarrett Heil.
Well, thank you very much again, KFJB. What a wonderful job you did for your first event. So, you know, I just love Marshall County. I love my family here. I've loved growing up playing Haverhill baseball, Ferguson County baseball, running cross country and track for the Marshalltown Bobcats. You know, I've also got to live in Pella, Iowa. What a wonderful town that was. I got to live in Washington, D.C. and be in the center of the political universe. But I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to raise my kids here. And it is such an honor to serve each and every one of you for 12 years as treasurer. And I would be honored to serve 4 years as county supervisor and tackle the challenges that we're hitting. There are challenges coming our way, and I've just seen so many wonderful leaders locally. I hope I can be half as good leader as some of them we've seen, and just really take steps forward to grow. And people matter. You each here came here because you care about your community, and we all care about our community. And how can we make it better to strive, give opportunities to our kids, things to do, quality of life, and if I can be a part of that, I'd be so honored. So I appreciate your vote coming up here on November 8th, and thank you very much for being here tonight.
All right, that's going to wrap up our county supervisor candidates. I want to thank Jarrett Heil, Carol Hibbs, Linda Von Holten, and Mark Gianetto. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay. We are going to take a short little break. And we're going to get the county attorney candidates up here. So we're just going to pause for just a moment. I promise I won't sing. And thank you all very much. Welcome back to those of you who are watching us on KFJB-TV. I'm Kyle Martin from KFJB Radio, AM and FM.
I'm Brandon Lewis from Kicks 101.1 and KFJB-TV. We do have our opening comments, which we drew earlier, and we will start with our first candidate up here, Sarah Tupper.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you to KFJB for hosting us. I've been working as a prosecutor in the state of Iowa for 20 years now. I started my career with the Wapello County Attorney's Office in Ottumwa. I prosecuted the domestic violence and sexual assault cases there, and I worked there for 2 years. And then I went to the Dallas County Attorney's Office in Adel, where I handled a general criminal docket, lots of different kinds of prosecutions. I've been with the Marshall County Attorney's Office now for 10 years. I focused my career on prosecuting violent crime, and if I'm elected as county attorney, I'm going to prioritize those prosecutions. That's what we need to do to keep our community safe. Something I'd also do, we've got a drug court here in Marshall County. I support those efforts. I'm on the advisory committee to the drug court. It helps folks who struggle with substance abuse, but it also helps our community as a whole by lowering crime, by helping the people in the court get jobs, obtain driver's licenses, things of that nature. I'd like to start a mental health court to help folks who struggle with mental illness. We have a huge need for those services across the state, including here in Marshall County. That's one way we can provide those services. Again, we can help our community as a whole, just like we do with the drug court. I think that fiscal responsibility in our elected leaders is really important. In the 10 years that I've been working in the county attorney's office, I've written grants that have brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for prosecutors and victim witness coordinators in our office. And I would keep doing that to save the taxpayers' money. Finally, I think it's really important that the county attorney be a leader in the community. So I would work with other community organizations and other leaders. We're going to best serve people if we work together to do it. So I would really appreciate to have your vote on November 8th.
Opening comment from Jordan Gaffney.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. I'm Jordan Gaffney, and I've been working hard here in Marshall County since 2010 to make this an even better place to live, work, and raise a family. First as just an assistant county attorney, then as the first assistant county attorney, that's the second in command, and since April of last year as your Marshall County attorney. I believe in holding offenders accountable and pursuing the case evidence to reach the right resolution in the case. Seeking solutions that work is the approach I bring to investigations, to challenges, to battles in the courtroom, and in advising Marshall County's many department heads. It's been my honor to lead the county attorney's office out of COVID, getting us past the court shutdowns of the pandemic, back into court, and accomplishing what was a big goal of mine starting out as county attorney, getting our young prosecutors trying cases so that they get that experience and they get that confidence and start building that confidence as they move forward in their careers. If elected, a couple goals of mine include increasing community outreach with this office, interfacing more with the public, and establishing a community advisory board to do that, and also establishing and setting up a diversion program for veterans being prosecuted in the criminal justice system, because we can better serve those who served for us. I'm looking forward to answering questions tonight, whether from you guys or from the public, and I would be honored to receive your support on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Sarah actually answered both questions I have with her opening statement. So I think I'm going to change it up a little bit. Just what drew you to public service? And we'll start with you. What made you want to become an attorney?
Well, my aunt, who I have looked up to my entire life, was a criminal defense attorney, believe it or not. And so that's what first got me interested in being an attorney. And my mother, when I was in high school, went back to law school. And she got her degree from the University of Iowa when I graduated from high school. And so both my aunt and my mother were very inspiring to me in believing that I can do what I want to do and go to law school. And so my mom took a job with the Iowa Attorney General's office working in the Criminal Appeals Division. And that got me interested in public service and in prosecution. And I've been working as a prosecutor for 20 years now. It's all I've done in the legal field. It's all I've ever wanted to do. And I love serving my community. I love being a public servant. I love working hand in hand with law enforcement. I love working with victims and trying to better their experience and give them a sense of justice. And it's something that I would be honored to continue doing as county attorney.
Jordan, what drew you to public service?
Well, it's just coming up and growing up and being raised to have that servant heart. That's just something my family valued. And then, coming up in college and UNI and graduating with a degree in English language and literature studies with a minor in criminology, but having no interest in teaching. Apologies to my wife, she's a teacher. No interest in teaching. A friend of mine, we were looking at joining up and signing up for the Peace Corps. But in a post 9/11 world, my family brought some real valid concerns that they had for that. So I looked at other options, and law school was an option. And I told myself if I did that I would want to pursue a career in public service, and prosecuting cases in criminal court would be what I would like to do. And so starting law school only kind of confirmed my interest. Doing the prosecutor internship reinforced that, and I was very blessed and fortunate to be hired here in Marshall County straight out of law school.
I'll start with Jordan as well. With your experience, what do you feel is a priority to you when it comes to managing caseloads, maybe whether that relates to staffing, that kind of thing, going forward here in Marshall County?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And it's a difficult question because we've seen increasing caseloads. So there's some more challenges there. We're very fortunate to have 2 grant-funded prosecutors. One does sexual violence crimes, one does domestic violence crimes, and the felony domestic violent crimes. Another does misdemeanor violent crimes. We're very fortunate to have those 2 doing that, but they're kind of pigeonholed in doing that. And then what I've done is I've assigned to specific dockets, one prosecutor does the drugs, we have a couple doing our simple misdemeanors and our traffic court cases, and then we just get kind of a hodgepodge of other cases. One prosecutor does OWIs. So I try to specialize, and I try to keep them within their range of expertise so that you're not constantly having to learn this field of law and then transition to this other field of law on a daily basis, because I think it's helpful to use the same skills and the same mind over and over. It's kind of where we're at in terms of cases.
Sarah, I'll ask you the same question. As far as it comes to caseloads, staffing, how do you see that moving forward?
Well, I agree with Jordan that we're busier than we've ever been. We had a backlog during COVID, and so we couldn't try cases for a while, and we did get behind. And we've been trying cases left and right. But I think that there need to be some changes made in the way that tasks are assigned in the office to better support the prosecutors who are handling those cases. As Jordan said, we have 2 grant-funded prosecutors who handle domestic violence and sexual assault crimes, and they do have to handle those cases according to the terms of the grant. But they're being bogged down doing some other tasks. One of them handles initial appearances for our office, and so he's not able to focus fully on the domestic violence cases that he needs to prosecute. So I would shift around some of those responsibilities. I would shift some work that support staff is able to do to support staff so that the prosecutors who need to be prosecuting the cases are able to do that. They're able to focus on working with victims, focus on prosecutions, and let support staff aid them in that. It's been a tough time for our office. COVID was difficult. Having to move out of the courthouse has been difficult. The derecho caused an impact to us as well. And our prosecutors, I think, have not been fully supported within the last year and a half. And so I would do everything that I can to help them to do their jobs and to be able to focus on the prosecution task.
Okay, I'm going to switch it up again because you did cover my 2 questions in your opening statement. Tell me something good about your job. We hear so much about trying cases and domestic violence, and I mean, what gives you joy? Is there something about your job that gives you personal fulfillment, joy?
You're going to be surprised, but my answer is going to deal with domestic violence and sexual assault cases. But I've prosecuted those cases for 20 years now, and you're right that being in trial and preparing for trial is hard work. It's a sacrifice. It's not always fun. These are difficult cases to prosecute. Domestic violence cases are probably, and sexual assault cases are probably the most difficult cases to obtain convictions on. They're challenging because we often have victims recanting in domestic violence cases, but I think they're the most rewarding cases that we can handle. And for me, that's where I've gotten a lot of joy. It allows me to have the biggest impact on my community. It allows me to have an impact on victims and to help them through the most difficult time that they've probably ever gone through. And so it doesn't happen all the time. It's not the majority of cases, but when I have a domestic violence victim or a child sexual assault victim tell me thank you or draw me a picture of thanks for helping them out, that means everything to me, and it makes all the difficult trial prep and all the hard times worth it.
Jordan, same thing. You know, basically like what I said to Sarah, that, you know, this is a difficult job. You are putting in long hours. You're seeing very difficult situations. You're dealing with difficult situations. Tell me something about your job that gives you joy.
When someone chooses life, that gives me joy. You know, I participated in our drug court program for a long time, and not everybody makes it through the program. Not everybody graduates the program, but every now and then you get someone who makes it through and they graduate and they're clean and they're sober for over a year, almost 18 months. That gives me joy. That's a beautiful thing because they're able to engage as a father, as a husband, as a mother. You know, that's a big thing. That's a win for families. That's a win for marriages. That's a win for our communities. So that gives me joy when people choose life. And, you know, every now and then you don't know how you're going to encounter it. But I was out on the campaign trail and I was talking to people and a man approached me and he said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "No." And when you're a prosecutor and someone says, "Do you remember me?" it's usually you know where things are going. So he told me, "Well, I'm so-and-so's father." And then I recognized the name. And he said, "You sent my son to prison." And I thought, okay, here we go, right? But no, he said this was exactly what he needs. And on the backside of that, he's doing so much better. He's living a different life. And this was the only way his life was going to change and that he was going to turn things around. So it brings me joy when people choose life.
You know, we had the county supervisors on earlier talking about budgets and things of that nature. When you look at a department overall and the issues that you face that we talked about a little bit, how do you oversee that side of things, working with, you know, other departments within Marshall County in relating to your department and maybe working with supervisors, things of that nature?
In terms of the budget or as a whole?
Just as a budget as a whole, if there's decisions that need to be made at the county level.
Well, it's important to know that most of the budget decisions fall on the Board of Supervisors because they're the agency, they're the group that allocates the funds to the rest of the county. And every department gets their pot of money, and we're all responsible for how we spend our pot of money. In the county attorney's office, our budget is about $1.5 million. The overwhelming amount of that is spent on salaries. About $55,000-$60,000 of that is spent on our operations for serving subpoenas, for transcripts, for printers, and things of that nature. So you have to be really careful and really cognizant of where your dollars are going and spend them well. When it comes to working with other departments, I've worked hard to build relationships, not just within my department, but across the county since I've become county attorney. And that's been a really rewarding part of the job because I've gotten to know officials with other departments, conservation, auditor, recorder, sheriff, people I wouldn't normally engage with. And we're able to troubleshoot problems more effectively, maybe sometimes the budget, maybe sometimes legal issues they're looking at. And because I have those relationships with those other department heads, we're able to more effectively identify problems and find solutions to try to move Marshall County forward in a positive way.
Sarah, to you, being on the fiscal side of things, how do you look at that, and also working intergovernmentally with other departments?
And specifically working with the supervisors in terms of fiscal issues?
Yeah, fiscal issues, that kind of thing going forward.
So I think it's important for the county attorney to clearly communicate with the supervisors what our needs are and what we need to best do our work in the county attorney's office and to best serve the public. So it's certainly true that they are the ones who decide what pot of money we get, but I think it's important for the county attorney to communicate with the supervisors, explain what our needs are, and make a pitch if we do need some additional funding for a particular initiative, or we need additional funding for salaries in the office or something like that. So communication, I think, is key. In terms of working with other agencies and departments within the county, something that I've really appreciated, one of the bright sides to COVID and to the tornado, particularly, are after the tornado happened, it really felt like Marshall County came together as a community, and it felt good to work together with other departments within Marshall County and to feel like we were in this together. We're going to get through this together. Someday we will be back in the courthouse together. I do believe that. And so that's something that I've really enjoyed and something that I would like to continue to do, hopefully, as county attorney.
We will open it up for public comment. If you do have questions, you can move to the back of the room. We'll also talk with Zach Tomish, news reporter for KFJB-TV, with a question.
Yeah, so I've heard you guys say it tonight. I've heard law enforcement say it time and time again in just my short stint back here. What can you guys do to help with the drug issue here in Marshall County or the mental health issue?
I'll go first on that. So, being a drug prosecutor for a long time before I took this role, you have to have strong responses both in terms of enforcement. You have to have a strong enforcement mechanism because you have to hold these offenders accountable. You have to get some of them out. And I've worked really hard to build relationships with prosecuting agencies outside of Marshall County, law enforcement outside of Marshall County, because sometimes we have to collaborate in investigations and work together. Whether that means we prosecute folks here when they get arrested, or if they get prosecuted in another county or in federal court, you need to have that strong enforcement mechanism to get those folks who are pushing product in Marshall County out. But at the same time, we see that whenever these folks get out, there's a big vacuum and somebody comes in and they want to replace it. So you have to have a strong rehabilitation and a treatment mechanism too. And this is where your probation and your substance abuse treatment and your drug court comes into play. And these are big things that I've pushed even before I was county attorney. Back when I was just first assistant county attorney, I was working hard to find good avenues for people to get help and get better and move forward. In terms of mental health court or mental health issues, it's important to know that our drug court program is not just for people diagnosed with substance use disorders, but if you have a co-occurring substance use disorder and a mental health disorder, you can qualify for the program. And we have a 3-year grant funded by the federal government for people involved in that program. We can roll those people in and they can participate in that program. It's actually very common to see people with a dual diagnosis situation, drug abuse and mental health issues. We can roll them in and we can help them in that situation. And I know Sarah has shared quite a few times, her desire to start a mental health court. I do think a treatment court would be positive because we don't have a specific court designed to treat people with just mental health disorders. To get into drug court, you also have that substance use disorder. So I think that's important. I think it would be beneficial to see more local services and more options for people with mental health disorders because right now we're seeing a lot of involuntary commitments, and that can work and that can be a positive thing, but that can also be something that sometimes can just be a Band-Aid, and we need more longer-term solutions. And the solutions might be bigger things that we see from the state level or the federal level. These might be solutions that might be require more changes and services being provided in Marshall County and elsewhere for the benefit of the public.
Sarah, did you want it?
I'm going to try to remember the entire
Okay,
question.
well,
Was
Zach,
that just for, I'm sorry, it was just for one
No,
of us?
No, it's for both of you.
will you repeat it for Sarah?
Yeah, I just heard time again from you guys up here from law enforcement that there's a drug problem in Marshall County. What can you do as county attorney to try and address that, and maybe mental health as well?
Well, I think we've got a great partnership with our local law enforcement to work on that drug issue. So we've got a great local drug task force, and I think what's key is continuing to collaborate with law enforcement to solve the drug problem. So we need to work with them, and when we do have arrests, we'll continue to prosecute them and hold offenders accountable. I agree with Jordan that another important piece of it is the drug court. We've had a drug court here in Marshall County since 2016, although it hasn't always been called a drug court because of funding. And that's one way that we can address users more than we can address people who are dealing in narcotics. But we can help people get rehabilitated and hopefully move on and live productive lives. So I do support the drug court. In terms of addressing mental health needs, while it's true that the drug court does have some money allocated to help with mental health needs, it's not a very large pot of money, and so it can help in some respects with that. And there is a lot of co-occurring substance abuse and mental health diagnoses that go together. But I think we need a dedicated mental health court to really help address the mental health issues that folks are dealing with here in Marshall County. We don't have enough services within the drug court to be able to fully address those. Look at the great impact, for lack of a better term, that the impact program is having here in Marshalltown. There's a huge need for it. They've seen a lot of success. I know there's been some criticism that, well, how are we going to fund this mental health court? I think impact has shown that you can start small and you can make big strides and make successes out of starting small. So they started out with 1 year funding, and now they're moving forward and getting additional funding. And so I think that's something we can do with a mental health court as well to serve our citizens and help them out.
Again, if you do have a question, feel free to approach the mic. Zach, do you have another question?
Well, hold on.
All right.
We've got somebody. No, we want to hear from you, Gary.
Please make sure you introduce yourself, and if you have a directed question, ask that.
I'm Joel Greer, and I saw him coming up here. I'm Gary Thompson. Question, we talk about the budget all the time, and we know the county budget is tight. So the question is, have you ever, in your positions, or would you in the future, make plea deals based on budget constraints and put criminals back on the street that, you know, sooner, that you know it's going against your better judgment?
No. The answer is no. I would go to the Board of Supervisors and beg for more money before I did that. I mean, our number one priority has to be keeping our community safe. And so making decisions about how we prosecute and who needs to be incarcerated and how we're going to handle a case, we really need to find a better way of addressing budgetary needs than saying we're just going to engage in plea bargains when they're not appropriate. Now, there is definitely an appropriate time for plea bargaining. That happens all the time in the criminal justice system. That's how we keep cases moving. That's how we do justice. That's what we do sometimes when evidence isn't sufficient to prove at trial the crime charged. So there's definitely a place for plea bargaining. But just to solve a budgeting concern and to say, I'm going to let this dangerous criminal out on the street because we don't have the money, I think we need to have a tough conversation with our bosses in the Board of Supervisors office before we do that.
Jordan?
Thank you. I would agree with those statements that Sarah made, and I would add that responsible fiscal stewardship and responsible leadership sets priorities, and you need to establish those priorities, and you need to stick with those. And so major crimes, violent crimes, and crimes that really impact the community need the most attention. And you need to make sure, as a leader, that you're not compromising your values about holding people accountable, the values about trying to get help for those who need it, and the values about removing dangerous offenders from the community. So it's important to make sure that you're managing the budget well, that you're leading well, and that you're not sacrificing services in the process. And it's important to keep your board notified about what you need and any potential issues that you might have with the budget, because they're concerned too. It's important to communicate that.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Again, for the record, state your name.
I'm Joel Greer from Marshalltown. Gary and I spent 5 hours today at the City Hall doing our annual goal setting for the city, so he's tired of me getting the last word. Sorry, Gary. As an attorney for 44 years, past president of the Iowa Academy of Trial Lawyers, limited to 250 of the best 9,000 lawyers in the state. My wife was coming into that, and my father was the past president. I am really interested in your experience and also in your ability to know when you're asked to do something that is outside your wheelhouse, how you identify that and who you turn to.
Jordan?
Thank you. So I have experience, significant experience across the board with any number of cases. You know, I came to this office as a baby prosecutor, doing the traffic docket, the Walmart shoplifting docket. I moved up to OWIs and thefts, frauds, forgeries, shootings, stabbings, robberies, burglaries, stabbings, arsons. Arsons have popped up as well, and working a lot of drug prosecutions. And I've prosecuted a handful of, to trial, a handful of complicated drug cases, you know, where the offenders have worked very hard to hide their criminal activity from law enforcement. And we're working very hard to discover that criminal activity. So there's a conflict there. You know, I did one such trial. It involved an overdose here in Marshalltown. It involved 2 search warrants at separate locations. It involved evidence seized from all 3 locations. It involved over 150 exhibits and a lot of testimony about what was being communicated over somebody's text messages on a cell phone, which is really exciting for me, but probably a snoozer for everybody else, because I think this is great, and you know, maybe my audience doesn't, but really complex cases. I haven't been afraid from doing them. I'm still pursuing them, still interested in them, and still willing to do them, because that's what this community needs. What was the second half of your question?
You get asked to do something outside of the criminal aspect, say you're giving lawyer advice to the county supervisor. By the way, I meant to say at the end of my question, you're both good people, you're both good lawyers. I hope you both continue to work together, and I can't wait until the election is over next week, so I'm not seeing anything negative.
All right. So how you handle that situation is basically what any attorney does in that situation. Usually you can identify it pretty quickly, and you know pretty quickly, this is outside the scope of my job duties. This is outside the scope of my responsibilities to, in this particular legal relationship. And you know that. Sometimes you need to talk that out. You need to have somebody as a sounding board, and that's a good thing to do. If you need somebody as a sounding board, that's a good step to take. And when that situation arises, and if that situation arises, you just need to have a conversation about boundaries with whomever the person is, so that those boundaries are established, and that it's clear that it's not okay to go over those boundaries. You know, most of the time I think people would just misstep by mistake, because, you know, as county attorneys, we can't render, you know, for example, we can't render private legal advice to people who call in. You know, if somebody wants to call in and have us prepare your will, we can't do that. But because we can't represent you. We represent Marshall County as a whole and the state of Iowa, but we can't represent you. So sometimes it's just as simple as explaining, hey, this is something that I can't do. You may not understand that, but this is just something that's outside of what I can do. And those conversations, you know, I've been successful in having those conversations, and never had an issue with it on the back end after discussing boundaries.
Sarah?
So in terms of prosecution, I've been working as a prosecutor in Iowa for 20 years now, and I've been handling felony level offenses for 20 years. When I started out with the Wapello County Attorney's Office, I was prosecuting all the sexual assault and domestic violence cases that came into the office. So I've gained a lot of experience in prosecuting violent crimes, but I've also had experience in prosecuting other sorts of cases. When I worked in Dallas County, I had a general criminal docket, so all different sorts of cases, not just limited to domestic violence and sexual assault. In my experience as a prosecutor, though, domestic violence and sexual assault cases are the most complicated to prosecute because of a lot of the evidentiary issues that are involved and because of the difficult relationships that are involved between the victims and the offenders. And so the fact that I've been able to successfully prosecute those cases for 20 years now, I think gives me a lot of experience that I can pass on to other attorneys in the office and mentor them and bring them up and help them to do their jobs well. If I understood the second part of your question, Mr. Mayor, it was about what do we do if we have to deal with an issue that's outside of our wheelhouse and we don't know how exactly to handle it?
I should have been more specific, like say there's a 2080 agreement with all the mayors in the county, or a 2080 agreement with the city, 2080 agreement with something else. So it isn't prosecuting criminal cases, it's giving legal advice to the county board of supervisors.
Right. So I think first of all, building collaborations with different entities and people that we have to work with are key. It's important that we develop those relationships so that when we're working together, it's easier to do our job and it's easier to have those conversations and to communicate with folks. I will say that if there is an issue that I feel like is outside of my wheelhouse, I don't have a problem with going to an expert about it. So for example, the Iowa Attorney General's office has people on staff who deal with difficult criminal prosecutions. If that's ever an issue, I talk to them. I talk to area prosecutions. I talk to criminal appeals a lot if I'm not sure if we should be doing something a certain way in trial and I want to make sure that we avoid issues on appeal. Prosecuting attorneys training coordinator, also with the Attorney General's office, provides a lot of good expertise. So I think it's important to know what you know and know what you don't know. And if you have an area that you're unfamiliar with, I'm not afraid to go to someone who has more information than me and work together collaboratively to learn and to solve the problem.
Can I follow up on that? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I would agree. I'm sorry, Joel. I didn't understand your question. Maybe I just deviated off course. But yeah, providing civil advice is an important part of the Marshall County Attorney's job. And coming into this role, I'd only really served as a prosecutor, so I had a lot to learn about 28Es, about a lot of different chapters of the Iowa Code, because sometimes you had to provide guidance to the Board of Supervisors or the 911 Commission or maybe conservation about issues that they're facing. So Sarah's right, the Attorney General's office has a great staff, very resourceful. If you need to find an opinion there, if you need just guidance, or if you just need to know where to look in the code, sometimes that's been beneficial. But it's required a lot of research, a lot of time in the office or out of the office to figure out what's exactly the issue, what are the legal principles involved, and how does my issue fit into these legal principles. And that's actually been one of the challenging aspects of this job and one of the most rewarding aspects of this job.
Okay, we've got time for two final questions. Step up to the mic.
Mark Eaton. This question's for both of you. So collaboration, you're just talking about all this. 2080 agreements, you're just talking about all this. You're the county attorney. So if you're collaborating with the city governments and the city government is getting out of line and has maybe a contract with an entity that's not right, not legal, are you willing to prosecute that, or is this going to be a handshake, wake it up deal?
I'll take that first. It's important to ask yourself first if you have a criminal violation, or if you just have somebody who's, sometimes people come at different approaches in contract negotiations, and 28Es are included in that. And sometimes it's hard to reach a consensus for those different governing bodies. As the county attorney, your job is to your county officials to represent them well and to provide them sound legal advice. And sometimes if emotions run high, or if things are kind of spinning out, to just kind of say, hey, let's take a breath, let's step back, let's come back to the table, and let's try to find a way forward. I think, I've found working here since 2010 that generally speaking, your county officials and your city officials want to work together and they want to collaborate for the benefit of the whole community. Sometimes the vision for how to accomplish that is different, and that's important, but that doesn't mean that everybody just walks away from the table and says we're not going to do anything. It just means that we have to find a consensus for our values, and I think we can do that together. And we don't really see violations of the law in conjunction with someone not wanting to engage in negotiations for a 28E. Generally, we have good relationships, and people are working very hard to collaborate with one another, and that's a positive thing for this community, and it needs to continue.
So I'm not sure if I completely understood your question, Mark. So if I don't answer what you asked, then please just let me know. But I agree that collaboration between the county and between municipal governments in our county is very, very important. And we're going to best serve our community if we work together to do it. If you're asking me where my loyalties lie, certainly they lie with the county. I work for Marshall County. I'm running for Marshall County Attorney. And so if you're asking whether I'm going to be swayed by the fact that my husband is employed by the city, no, I'm not. I take very seriously my job as a prosecutor. I take very seriously my ethical principles. I think I'm a person of integrity, and so when push comes to shove, I'm going to do my job, and I am going to do what is best for the county. But that being said, I do think there is a lot of collaboration that can and should take place within Marshall County, working with other municipalities, including the city of Marshalltown. Did that answer your question?
Becky?
I'm Becky Badkey. I want to thank both of you for representing us in Marshall County, and you've asked for our vote on November 8th. My concern is November 9th. How do you bring unity to the office?
Anybody want to tackle that?
I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead first. Having never run for public office before, I don't know that I was necessarily prepared for how difficult the journey was going to be, but it's also been very rewarding. I can say that I'm proud of both the way I've conducted myself and proud of the way that Sarah's conducted herself throughout this entire process. I've never stopped believing that she's a good person. Sarah's a good person and a good prosecutor, and she does good work. I'm very thankful that when we go to work, we're not candidates. We're both working together for the benefit of Marshall County, because that's what you guys need. That's what you guys need from your public servants. So I think whatever happens November 8th, on November 9th, you just kind of let things cool down a little bit, and I think you just work on rebuilding those relationships together, and I think that's possible. I think that's possible. Sarah and I have worked together for a long time. I like working with Sarah. I would like to continue working with Sarah, and I think it's possible that we could heal things, and the light goes out on me, but and then we can find a way to move forward for the benefit of not just the office and not just for prosecutions in general, but the whole county.
Sarah?
I agree. It's really important that we keep in mind the work that we're doing and why we're working in the county attorney's office. Jordan and I have worked together for a really long time. We share, I think, a similar sense of humor, a love of Seinfeld, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. So that's something that gets us through some difficult times. We had a great experience trying a murder case together last September. So I really enjoyed that experience of working with Jordan. But I think what we have to do on November 9th, to answer your question, is keep in mind why we're here. We're here to serve the citizens of Marshall County. We're here to prosecute crimes that happen, to provide legal advice to other departments within the county, and also to lead the county attorney's office. As I've said earlier, it's been a really difficult time in the county attorney's office over the last 4 years with the tornado, COVID, and the derecho, and being out of the courthouse for an extended period of time. And there needs to be leadership within the county attorney's office to help the prosecutors and the support staff to do their jobs. And so we just need to keep that in mind. The reason that we're here is to lead the office and, most importantly, to serve the citizens of Marshall County.
We'll move to our closing comments. First, Jordan Gaffney.
Well, you've been given a lot to consider tonight, Marshall County. You have two good candidates to choose from. But there are some ways that we are very different. We both believe in treatment courts, but we do disagree on how best to establish them and how best to fund them. I don't want the burden of funding treatment courts to fall on you guys, the local taxpayers. I do believe that the voters should not have to sacrifice the independence of the county attorney's office. You can't have independence when the Marshalltown Chief of Police and the county attorney are married. And it doesn't matter that they're both really good people. When I talk about this, and I know this is controversial, when I talk about this, I'm not talking about a legally defined situation where there's a conflict of interest and an attorney would have to not participate in a case. I'm talking about the values that we aspire to as Americans who love democracy and checks and balances. And I'm talking about the consolidation of a lot of power into one marriage unit. I believe that we can make a difference with the resources and the people that we have right here and right now. A community advisory board is a win for this community, and we have the infrastructure to do it right here and right now. The same with a veterans diversion program. We can do that right here and right now. The VA already has the services. We can do this. You know, one major reward of campaigning is that you get to better know the people you serve and the community that you're in. And this is really rewarding and something I've enjoyed the entire campaign. And I can say that on this side of the campaign journey into November, that even more so than when I began, that I love Marshall County, I love serving here, and that it would be my honor to receive your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Sarah Tepper.
Well, I'll be honest with everyone. I'm a little disappointed to hear Jordan continue to promote the false narrative that it's some sort of conflict or a threat to the integrity of the county attorney's office for me to be county attorney when my husband is the police chief in Marshalltown. Jordan knows that that's not actually an issue because I've been working with him in the county attorney's office for 10 years. Jennifer Miller would not have hired me as county attorney if it were an issue. I have obtained an opinion from the Iowa Attorney General's office that it's not a conflict, and it's the same analysis whether it's county attorney or whether it's an assistant county attorney. And so it's disappointing because Jordan actually promoted me to first assistant county attorney. And so if it were a conflict, that wouldn't have occurred. If there were an issue with me working as county attorney while my husband is police chief, then there would have been judges who have brought it up. There would have been court cases that were affected, and that's simply not the case. So I want to assure folks that that's not going to be an issue for me. Mainly, though, I love this community. I love Marshall County. I've been living here for 11 years now. My husband and I are raising our two youngest children here in Marshall County, and I have really enjoyed the opportunity to collaborate with different organizations, different community leaders within the county and within the various communities within Marshall County. I've gotten involved with different boards. I've had an opportunity to work with other leaders and develop partnerships, and so I think that community involvement is really essential to making this a better community and being the best prosecutorial office that we can be. If we're going to best serve our community, it's going to be by working together. If we're going to best assure community safety and public safety, it's going to be by working together. And if we're going to best make sure that everyone in our community knows that they're protected by the law, it's going to be by working together. So I would love to have your vote for county attorney on November 8th.
Okay, that is going to wrap it up. Those are the final words of our town hall. We appreciate everybody that is here. What a great turnout, and we appreciate everybody watching at home on KFJB-TV. Let's give a round of applause to our county attorney candidates, Jordan Gaffney and Sarah Tupper. And that's a wrap.